Venezuela reaffirms calls for dialogue over the Essequibo territory. U.S. airstrikes on Syria condemned. U.S. Security Council calls for increased global cooperation on COVID-19 vaccines. Hello and welcome to teleSUR. I'm José Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the south. Venezuela has reiterated its call for dialogue with Guyana to settle the dispute over the Essequibo territory. The government restated its position after participating in a virtual hearing with the International Court of Justice, which declared it had jurisdiction to intervene in the territorial dispute in response to Georgetown's request.
The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela reaffirms its commitment and good faith to reach a peaceful and political solution that guarantees peace in our region, and extends a renewed invitation to the Cooperative Republic of Guyana to take the path of direct negotiations. Venezuela has respectfully reiterated that it has participated as a courtesy, not as a participating party in these proceedings, and has expressively reasserted its historical position of not recognizing the jurisdiction of the court to hear the territorial dispute over the Guyana Essequibo. On the contrary, Venezuela has emphasized the validity of the 1966 Geneva Agreement to reach a practical and mutually satisfactory settlement for the parties through friendly negotiations.
The Venezuelan vice president subsequently pointed out that the International Court of Justice lacks jurisdiction to rule on the dispute over the Essequibo territory.
If they really want to contribute to peace in Venezuela, to dialogue, well, sanctions are not exactly consistent with that message. So basically, I think that right now the ball is in the court of the European Union. They have to demonstrate that willingness to contribute to peace and the strengthening of our democracy.
Meanwhile, after being declared persona non grata by the European Council, Venezuela's ambassador to the European Union, Claudia Salerno, stated that the sanctions promoted by the bloc do not support a call to dialogue, peace, and stability. The dispute came after the European Union decided to apply coercive measures against certain Venezuelan officials. In response, Foreign Minister Jorge Arriaza delivered notes of protest to European ambassadors accredited in Venezuela, while the AU's representative Isabel Beltain was declared persona non grata. The government described the sanction as unacceptable and a clear act of intervention in the country's internal affairs. Ecuador's Health Minister Juan Carlos Ceballos resigned from his post on Friday in the middle of a scandal surrounding the vaccination of privileged groups. Ceballos is being investigated by the prosecutor's office for alleged influence peddling after it was revealed that several of his relatives were vaccinated with the first doses of COVID-19 vaccines imported by the government. The scandal provoked widespread condemnation as the population awaits shots and suffers the consequences of the health crisis, which has seen hospitals overwhelmed. As tensions continue in Ecuador following the presidential elections on February 7th, supporters of losing candidate Yaku Perez have clashed with the police. Confrontations were reported outside the National Electoral Council, where supporters of Perez and his Pachacutic party gathered. Meanwhile, indigenous leader Gustavo Tenesaca, member of the Confederation of Peoples of Quichua nationality, says the group will join a strike called by the Pachacutic party. This as Perez has refused to recognize the election results, claiming he was a victim of electoral fraud. According to official information released on Friday, Brazil registered an unemployment rate of 13.9% in the fourth quarter of 2020. The figure represents nearly 13.4 million people. The most affected sector was the informal economy, which in 2020 represented 38.7% of the country's workforce. Meanwhile, President Jair Bolsonaro continues to push his privatization drive. On Friday, he presented a bill to turn the state-owned postal company into a public-private partnership. The move came a day after proposing a similar measure for the electric company Eletrobras. More stories coming up. Don't go away.
Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough, and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Etna. Monday, only on teleSUR.
Una travesía para descubrirnos. Buscamos conexiones perdidas.
No nos queda otra que luchar, porque no tenemos nada que perder.
Realmente es por todos.
Recorremos el mundo con reportajes teleSUR.
Saturdays, only on teleSUR. Who's moving the chess man? What interests and motivate the actors behind each event? What's at stake? Critical Move investigates every event from Monday to Friday, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back. United States authorities have declassified a document which revealed that Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman authorized the operation to capture or kill journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The Biden administration provided a 2-year-old report to Congress ahead of its public release on Friday. The document concludes that given his control over decision-making, the Crown Prince must have approved the operation. According to Turkish authorities, Jamal Khashoggi was murdered at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd by a squad of 15 men who first strangled him and then dismembered his body. His remains were never found. Saudi Arabia rejected the conclusions of the report in a statement released by its foreign ministry. It said the report contained inaccurate information and findings. It added that the kingdom denounced the crime and its leader took the necessary measures to ensure that those responsible were brought to justice. Israeli security forces heavily repressed Palestinian protesters in the West Bank city of Hebron on Friday. The clashes started after prayers when Palestinians marched through the center of the Israeli-occupied city, holding banners calling on the Tel Aviv to evacuate illegal Jewish settlers. The troops responded with stun grenades and tear gas. Palestinians stressed that the West Bank, seized by Israel in 1967, is the heartland of a future independent state. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, has presented her global update to the Council, including reports on Colombia, Honduras, and Venezuela. Bachelet urged the government of Colombia to step up measures to prevent the target killings of human rights defenders and demobilize guerrillas, which increased in 2020. Regarding Honduras, she called on the administration to address the disproportionate use of force against protesters. Turning to Venezuela, Bachelet underscored the advances in the agreements reached with the government, including the possible installation of a commission in the country. More generally, she expressed concerns about the expulsion of asylum seekers and refugees in several nations without taking their vulnerability into consideration.
Despite a reduction in the national homicide rate, my office observes an intensification of violence due to the expansion of non-state armed groups and criminal groups, with serious consequences for the civilian population. In 2020, we received information on 81 massacres, of which we documented 76, the highest number since 2014. We also recorded 133 killings of human rights defenders, of which we documented 90. The UN verification mission in Colombia also documented at least 252 killings of former FARC combatants since the signing of the peace agreement. I urge the state to redouble its efforts to protect the population.
Russia has condemned U.S. airstrikes in eastern Syria and has suggested that Washington does not leave the planned conflict.
We want to ask the US directly if they allegedly made a decision never to leave Syria at all, even to the point of destroying this country. Politically and diplomatically, it is very important for us to resume contacts with the US. We hope that the new administration will soon form its team for this purpose.
We strongly condemn such actions and call for Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity to be unconditionally respected.
Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez says he shares citizens' rejection of former King Juan Carlos' uncivic behavior.
I am going to express in a resounding manner the same feeling that the majority of the Spanish citizens have, which is one of rejection. I feel the same rejection as the majority of the Spanish citizenry against these uncivic behaviors that we are learning about in the media. And with the same categoricalness, I say that the current royal house, the current head of state, King Felipe VI, has marked a before and an after in favor of exemplarity, transparency, and the good use of public resources. Consequently, the current king, the current head of state, has my full support.
Thousands of anti-government protesters rallied in the Georgian capital on Friday to demand early elections after the arrest of a top opposition leader.
The idea is broader. The idea is to defend Georgian democracy, to defend Georgia's freedom, and to defend Georgia's European future. And free and fair election, release of political prisoners, and stopping of political prosecutions are very important elements of this freedom and political future.
Italy's Mount Etna has been active for the past 8 days, with huge explosions sending orange flames bursting from the crater as high as 500 meters. From distance, it looks like it's snowing orange balls as the lava spills down its slopes. Plumes of smoke have sent ash over the villages of Trascagni, Pedara, and Trimisteri, and some even arrived in the city of Catania, 35 kilometers from the volcano. Italy's active volcanoes also include Stromboli on the Sicilian island of the same name and Mount Vesuvius near Naples, which last erupted in 1944. We are taking one last break, but stay with us.
了保持身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Guide your body. Tuesdays, only on teleSUR.
Una travesía para descubrirnos. Buscamos conexiones perdidas.
No nos queda otra que luchar, porque no tenemos nada que perder.
Realmente es por todos.
Recorremos el mundo con reportajes teleSUR.
Saturdays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back. French government spokesman Gabriel Attal has said that the country has avoided a third lockdown to battle COVID-19. However, President Emmanuel Macron has begun to impose restrictions on a local basis. Furthermore, Prime Minister Jean Castex has said that the health crisis has gotten worse. He added that the more rapidly spreading variant that was found in the UK accounts for almost half of the nation's infections. Turkey is hoping to vaccinate most of its citizens above the age of 20 by the end of May.
We know that we will reach 105 million doses of vaccines in total by the end of April, and at the latest by the end of May. I am not saying this for additional vaccines like AstraZeneca and BioNTech. I'm saying this for the 105 million CoronaVac vaccine, which the amount is clear and precise right now. We think this will happen by the end of May, at the latest. What does this mean? It means the vaccination of 52.5 million people. This is for our people over the age of 20 who can be vaccinated. A part of these people won't be vaccinated because they got over the sickness beforehand. When we look at it in total, we will be able to vaccinate 52.5 million people over the age of 20. On November 24th, we signed a contract with Sinovac. Afterwards, I said it was made for additional 50 million doses. A contract was made for a total of 100 million doses.
San Marino, a small independent republic in northern Italy, has started its vaccination campaign against COVID-19 with the Russian Sputnik V vaccine. Secretary of State for Health and Social Security Roberto Ciabatta said that the vaccination is being conducted on a voluntary basis. Ciabatta added that this will not be a requirement for Italians who come to work in the republic. The city-state reached an agreement with Russia to acquire 7,500 Sputnik V doses after plans to get European Union approved jabs from Italy got delayed. The country of 34,000 people has registered over 3,600 COVID-19 cases and 73 deaths.
I'm feeling good. I was very excited and my heart is racing. I'm really happy that I have done this first step because I believe health workers have to be an example for the population. This is a day of hope because the vaccine is the strongest weapon we have to defeat this disease, for which in fact we had only a few drugs. I would like to tell the citizens not to be afraid because after many days and months of waiting, finally the vaccine is here and it's an opportunity, the mass vaccination that we cannot miss.
On Thursday, Sierra Leone received a shipment of 200,000 doses of Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine donated by China to support the country's vaccination campaign. Health authorities said that the shot will play an important role in preventing and containing the COVID-19 pandemic. The vaccine comes as the government is planning to immunize about 1.6 million vulnerable people. Meanwhile, the Deputy Foreign Minister Salomon Jamiru expressed appreciation to the Asian nation and assured that his country will continue to work with the Chinese medical teams to combat the spread of the virus. On Friday, Ivory Coast received its first batch of COVID-19 vaccine doses from the COVAX facility, a global initiative aimed at distributing jabs to lower-income countries. The African nation is the second to benefit from the World Health Organization's program. A plane carrying 504,000 doses touched down in the commercial capital Abidjan, paving the way for the country to launch a vaccination campaign. By the end of this year, COVAX plans to deliver nearly 2 billion doses to over 90 low-income countries. Ivory Coast has registered more than 32,000 COVID-19 cases and 188 deaths. Somalia is being hit hard by the resurgence of COVID-19 cases, with its health system severely strained by the latest wave. Doctors and nurses at the Martin Hospital in Mogadishu, which provides the capital's only virus isolation center, have continued working around the clock to try to save their lives. Authorities have blamed this resurgence on a new variant of the virus. According to official data, Somalia's infections jumped from nearly 400,800 to more than 6,500 in February. To date, the nation's death toll stands at 218.
Coronavirus has come into the city. We need someone to stop it and give us medicine that gives us an immunity. Now you see I am sad today as my mother died, and you will see many others whose parents will also die. There are some rumors on social media reporting a much higher fatalities for the virus. I think these are politically motivated reasons, and it's impossible that we lose 200 people in one night in our hospitals, as is being suggested on social media. The truth is, in the past 3 weeks, we have lost about 50 people.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said that he was glad that the UN Security Council voted in favor of vaccine equality, but urged to waive intellectual property rights for COVID-19 vaccines in order to increase production and coverage.
Voting for vaccine equity is important, and we appreciate that, but the concrete steps should be taken and waive intellectual property to increase production, increase coverage of vaccine or immunization, and get rid of this virus as soon as possible.
And we come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.